Good evening. Welcome to the Trails Committee meeting on November 15th. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. and we'll do a roll call vote. Let me know when you're here when I call your name. Will Warren,
Here.
Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky,
Yes.
Kat McKee. Great. Okay. So we did something for the first time. Very excited. We sent out the minutes the same night that we had our last meeting on the 26th. So thank you very much, Sati. That was super awesome. So does anyone need me to pull those up so we can review them, or have you had an opportunity to review them? I'll take no as everyone has reviewed them. Okay. So any discussion or edits, name misspellings, sneaky things like that?
No, they look good.
Okay, great. Okay, so can someone make a motion to approve the minutes from October 26, 2022?
So
So
moved.
Oh.
I think Isabella got in there first.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, that's your chance, Will, to reclaim. Okay, and we'll do a vote. Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Will Warren,
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky,
Yes.
and Kat McKee. Great, thank you all. Very efficient. Next up, we're talking about the DCR memorandum of agreement. I reached out to John Scannell, our contact with DCR Watershed Division, on the November 2nd, and they do not have an update yet for the Trails agreement. He did note that they're working through multiple attorneys within DCR to make the agreements consistent. So it's just going to take a little bit longer to do that. So we'll wait and see what happens in the next month. I hope that, ideally they'd get it done this year. And I'm not sure, I haven't really asked the question yet, which will be next on the email to him will be, can we still proceed with the fencing if we don't have that agreement in place? So we'll see. Because that's a maintenance agreement. So technically any maintenance or work that we do on the property is covered under that agreement. So it may be an issue or not. It depends on how they answer that question. Next up, Forest, any questions about the agreement? Discussion? Nope. Okay, forest bathing recap. So we had Aaron Flowers lead the forest bathing walk on Sunday. And I will note that it was our first, I think, so that we did a similar hike in May, and there was light rain at the beginning. Sati, I think it was your group at 1 o'clock had some light rain, and then it cleared up. So this is technically our second time in 5 years that we've hosted hikes that it's rained. So that's pretty good stats considering. So we did have a high cancellation rate, or a high no-show rate, I should say. We had 14 registrants. We were capping it at 10, and we it gets a little tricky when you have families of 2 and 3 at the very end. So Aaron was flexible and allowed us to kind of move the numbers to allow a complete family to attend. So that's how we ended up with 14. That does not include the Trails Committee. So of those 14, we only had 3 show up. And then we had Will and myself. So it was a small group. And the smaller group works really well for this type of walk because it's, a quiet, kind of solitary experience until you come together and talk about what you experienced and how you experienced it. So I thought personally it was really good. It was nice to kind of get out, and the rain did stop. And the rain actually added a really nice feature because we did a lot of listening to sounds, and that was certainly a big sound. But just kind of the entire experience was a good one. So Will, what was your experience like going through it?
I thought it was wonderful. I liked the exercises. I thought they were pretty good. And you know, certainly the trail is actually very nice.
Mm.
It's
9/11
very,
loop.
very scenic, you know, at this time of year, very scenic because you can actually see out, you know, into the reservoir.
Yeah.
And there weren't any bugs except for one. It bit my wife who wasn't on the trail.
Will
But,
brought home a friend. or
Yeah,
not.
I brought home a tick on my clothes and I put my clothes in the laundry hamper and then she did the laundry. And
No good
I
deed.
didn't get any ticks, but she got bit. So
Yeah.
serves her right for not going on the hike, I guess.
No. No, but ironically, Isabella, I think you remember when you reached out, I think it was Nadine Mazzola that you had reached out to initially about the forest bathing walks back in April or May.
Yes, I think so. There were a bunch of people I reached out to, so I don't quite remember everyone's name.
Yeah, no, that's okay because Will and I went to, as part of the Mass Trails Conference on Thursday. I think it was Thursday, right, Will? They had a workshop on interpretive signs and creating a self-guided walk and some guidelines on that. And Nadine sat across from us at that workshop, and she had introduced herself and said she's a certified forest bather. And I looked to Will and I laughed because we were doing a walk with Erin on Sunday. So I introduced ourselves and I said, oh, you know, do you know Erin Flowers? She's like, I trained her.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. And so that was really ironic. And then she also said she shared her card. And this was an interesting twist on forest bathing, which I think we should look into. Now, Nadine would be a for charge kind of hiker, you know, guided walk. But she does forest bathing with your dog.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So we do so much on our trails that don't allow dogs. It would be really a great thing to try to do one with dogs on a property, obviously in town, that you can bring your dog. So I thought that might be a good twist to the.
Yeah, that's really cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I bet we get a lot of interested people because you never see guided hikes that you allow your dogs on. And that might be another thing. We just have a guided hike for dogs too, with dogs.
Actually, we did end up having some dogs on the hike, but they weren't ours. There were a dog walker brought 3 dogs in. I assume that she was walking the dogs rather than that she owned all of those dogs.
And this one little golden, so we're not supposed to have dogs on the trail. And this one golden was so excited, he came up and stepped on our tea party. Like Erin had the tea party blanket out and the little presentation with the tea,
Yeah.
and the trumpet, you know, the little treats and the cups, and the dog's like, you know, give me. It's cute. So yes, that went really well. Or it
Next
went well for what we had. What was that?
next hike will be next year. So
Good question. So that's coming up on the next one. I did just want to follow up and say that although we had 14 registrants, each time we do one of these guided hikes, I've started to include in the registration not only our waiver, but would you like to be added to the distribution list, the email distribution list? And when they say yes, then we can transfer their names to receive news and announcements. So we did receive 3 of those, even though the people weren't able to come to the hike, or to the walk. So that's actually a really good thing that we want to build into each of our hikes. Each time we do this, we can gain a number of, you know, additional participants. For example, the history hike, we got 16 more names on top of what we already got from Heritage Day, which was 62 names. So now our distribution list is at 271, which is great. It's growing little by little, but it grows. So that's wonderful. I just wanted to share that good news. And I recognize that the last news and announcement went out for this forest bathing hike. It had a link broken. So when I tried to update it, it sent it again. So now I know the secret, how to do that without sending another update, because that wasn't my intention to spam our new list. And our Facebook followers were at 607. So again, we have a few more. And that's great that list is growing. So thanks for everyone's participation and help on the forest bathing stuff. And then the next question was any other hikes? So that's number 5. We talked about, and we did a poll during Heritage Day. We had that poster and we had 4 different types of hikes, and we asked people to vote on the types of hikes that they'd be interested in. And we pulled them on something we haven't really tried yet at, with us during the winter. We haven't tried winter hikes or walks and or snowshoe cross-country ski clinics, for example. So many people were interested in all 3 of those. So the question, and the snowshoe and cross-country ski is going to be a little bit harder to gauge because we don't know when snow's coming, and we won't have a lot of lead time. So it's something that I wanted to talk to the committee about and see if you're interested in, and this might be more in the January timeframe because December is going to be really too busy to schedule anything. But how do you guys feel about maybe a snowshoe clinic to start with, or a winter walk?
I would like a snowshoe clinic, and also I don't know to what extent we could have a cross-country ski thing. I mean, I don't own any equipment,
Yeah.
so I don't know
Yeah,
exactly. That would be difficult.
I think the snowshoe clinic might be easier to pull off initially.
Yeah.
And if it's that wildly successful, we can graduate, ourselves to maybe cross-country ski in the future. And I can reach out to AMC, and this would be part of the Choate Fund grant series, or we could use ARPA money. I'm looking at our description, and we did say with the ARPA money that we could pay for a guided, what was it? Budget to pay for professionals with subject matter expertise to lead guided nature hikes for all ages.
Mhm.
So that is in the ARPA money if we needed to, divide and conquer and take a little bit money out of that to fund a snowshoe clinic. I can reach out to AMC Worcester chapter. They have wonderful people there that would be, I'm certain, willing to put on a snowshoe clinic. And the only caveat would be whether we rent snowshoes. We could maybe rent them from REI, or I don't know if there's another place if we wanted to get into that's a little costly. And I'm thinking we might want to steer away from that as our first clinic and see if people want to just, come with the snowshoes and just experience it with us or something like that. Do you guys have any thoughts or feedback?
My impression is that snowshoes are relatively inexpensive, but maybe I'm
Yes,
wrong on that.
You can, yeah, I think, and I don't know if someone's purchased them recently. I know when it's a cute story. My husband and I's first Christmas together back in 2009, we both bought each other a Christmas gift, and we ended up in North Carolina to see my family, and we exchanged gifts there, and we both bought each other snowshoes. It was the cutest thing ever. So when we did that, and those were inexpensive shoes, so they're like 60 or 80 bucks. So that's expensive to some. I don't want to just qualify that as inexpensive, but compared to mountain snowshoes, those were relatively inexpensive. Does anyone have any other experience or thoughts on whether we should rent or let people bring what they have and go from there?
I feel like maybe renting could be an option, just because, I mean, I don't own a pair of snowshoes, and I don't think I would go out to buy them just for like a snowshoe walk. But
Yep.
if they were offered as rentals,
Okay.
maybe. But maybe also like have a limit on
Yeah.
how many people come, and like
Yeah.
when you sign up, also include sizes too. Like you must include like your size
Yeah,
as well.
it's going to be based on weight, so it's
Oh,
a
weight,
tricky,
okay.
it's a tricky number to get from people.
Yeah, yeah.
Around right after the holidays, give us your weight.
Yeah, right.
Thanks.
So
Well-
is renting expensive?
We could do weight ranges, right? That probably will
Yeah,
take that.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at Amazon, and snowshoes are not inexpensive. They are, like $70 and up, and they can go
Yeah.
quite high. So It's a rental area, I think.
Okay.
How
Yeah,
much is
and
the rental
thank-
versus the?
Yeah,
versus
let me
the-
go RA rental right now, just take a looky look. Now they fill up fast, so you know, this might be tricky if we need a ton of them. Because,
Hmm.
hold on, let me see. Oh, maybe they don't. I don't know. We'll have to look into it. Does anyone want to help me look into snowshoe rentals?
Yeah, I'll help you look into it.
Okay, I do need a volunteer because I'm a busy little person too. Okay, so we'll look into that and see if we can. And I can talk to the AMC person. They may have some ideas because they do clinics and stuff like this all the time. So, okay, and so we can shoot for something like January or February, which they tend to be pretty quiet months for us anyway, other than we're going to be working our little butts off behind the scenes to get ready for spring because we have lots of little projects coming up with our new trail. Does that sound good, like a good time frame?
Yeah,
And we'll just have to kind of play it by ear. If it's if it's not really a snowy winter, we might have to punt it. The other question is, we have to get in a number of hikes by, the end of April. Do we want to look at a winter hike? And, what do you guys, and how do we, if we did a winter hike, how would because we could get a naturalist of some sort to come in, but winter's a different season, so I'm not sure how much we'd have to talk about or what we want to do. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, winter hikes versus the spring hikes were, you would like to know our thoughts on, or?
Yeah, on whether we should try a winter hike, like whether it's snow or not, like it would just be a winter walk. We could do, like a winter full moon walk.
That would be nice.
That might be a nice twist, right?
Yeah.
We might be able to do something like that at Breakneck Hill because it's wide open, and when the full moon, because it was a few years ago, we did, Stewardship did a Halloween hike at Breakneck Hill and it was full moon on Halloween, and it happened to snow the night before, which kind of mucked up plans, but it was beautiful and you could see a lot of stuff. So we might want to think about that depending on when full moon happens and what day of the week that is.
Yeah, I feel like
Alright.
a winter hike would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like a way to get out, especially.
Yeah,
during
maybe
winter.
that could be the promotion too, is like just get out. I don't know how cold is too cold for folks, but I guess we should consider that, like, there probably is a breaking point there for people.
I mean, if somebody is ready to do the snowshoeing and skiing, then they should not have any problems in just walking in the moonlight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will depend on a lot of different activities
Right.
too. Okay. And so we can also, in the coming meetings in the next, maybe not December, maybe in January, we should start to try to line up our hikes for the spring, line up our hike leaders and kind of have some tentative dates, so that we know that we're going to meet our objective for the Choate Fund grant. Something else that was in the Choate Fund grant was a bench of some sort, a bench on the trail, and also it might have been, I'll have to double check if it had interpretive signs, like one sign. Let me see. Yeah, two interpretive signs for $100. So I don't know if 100 is going to cover it. They really were at about 150 each. But so yeah, so some signage and a bench. And I think, I don't know if we talked about it, Will, or if I talked to Aaron, but that 9/11 trail is really a great location to think about putting a bench because there are so many vistas.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll need to talk to DCR about that. I know historically they've had some feedback about not wanting, oh, thank you for the rental thing, not wanting, I thought the chat went away, interesting. Not wanting benches because of loitering, so we do need to just double check that we can do something like that. Because if it's not on DCR property, then we can find another place that would maybe need a bench. Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else on that topic? No? Okay, great. Okay, next, Mass Trails Grant, contracting update, next steps and project related discussion. This is going to include a butter outreach, the new connection that we made during the history hike about extra parking and an easement for the development that's going in next to the trail, and DPW's in-kind support and the procurement process. So I'll start with the procurement process. I'm scheduled to meet with Mark Purple and Melanie on Friday at 9 a.m. to discuss the procurement process and get ready for when the grant contracting paperwork comes into play. You know, when that gets finalized, we'll be ready to go. And also it's a broader conversation. So we have the grant, which is 50,000 plus match, and that process. And then we have ARPA funds for the rest of it. And we have to go to bid for the bridge and the boardwalk because it exceeds the 50,000 cap. So we need to understand, I think we need to go to bid soon, because I think that process might be 30 to 60 or more days. I forget how it works, like how long you have to have it open, the bid open. It goes through the state contracting system, Combis, I believe. And then you might have to put notices in papers and things like that. So I forget if I'm confusing issues or not, but we want to go ahead and get that ready for, so we can go ahead and collect bids this winter, have the bid process and the selection happen, and work with our vendor to get everything lined up for the spring. So my question to anyone here, and I already talked to Will about it, would you be interested in, if you have time and you want to learn about the procurement process from Mark and Melanie, you're welcome to join us on Friday at 9 a.m. I know it's work time typically. I imagine the meeting would be an hour, maybe an hour and 15. I don't think they have a lot of time either. So we, I just want to put that out there for anybody.
Just out of curiosity, what are we looking to procure through this process? The bridge, or?
Yeah, the bridge and the boardwalk, because they exceed $50,000. So that requires the bid process. You have to go out to bid and have people submit RFPs, submit proposals for your RFP. And then you have to go through a selection process. And so this meeting is going to talk about that.
Well, I guess the who's going to find the potential, or so I guess what you're saying, we're going to have to put out some type of RFP then, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We have to write it, put it out, and then go through that process. So this is really about learning that process. What are the steps broken down, understanding.
So I guess we'd be looking for any examples that they might have. I'm curious if there are other trail committees in Massachusetts that have gone out to bid on bridges and such.
I'm sure.
And they might have an RFP that we could copy.
Yeah, and actually I have from my work contacts a Combis login, and I can go into the system and see. I mean, it could be that there are bridges out there now for RFP, so I can kind of take a look and see if anything comes up, or we could search the interwebs and see if there's anything out that pops up. Because if it's public record, usually you'll find a copy of it.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, Will.
Yeah, the RFPs. But looking at some examples, we can, and if it's public record, maybe we can also look at the at what the winning proposal looked like as well.
Yeah. I
and
want to
also
understand. Go ahead.
contact anybody who might say, you know, boy, if we'd been smart, we would have done this, that, or the other, right?
I have some tips that I've learned from a few discussions I've had about, how to kind of draft it. And I'm curious about the selection process. If we're required by state law to pick the lowest bidder, there may be some things like that take it out of our hands, which is just,
I
something
think
we need to consider.
I'm not sure that you necessarily have to take the lowest bidder. I think that you can rate the bids on things other than just price.
Right, and that's what we're gonna learn. So if anyone wants to join us, it's gonna be at the town hall. You're welcome to. I've also, as a result of inviting you, have put out a question to Mark, Purple, Vanessa, and I started with Jim Hegarty. He said, reach out to legal counsel and get an opinion on this. So I asked the question, if we had quorum at Friday's meeting with Mark and Melanie to talk about procurement, do we have to post a meeting? And I don't think we would, because it's similar to what a site visit is for some of our committees that have to do site visits. You can all be there and it can exceed, it can be quorum as long as you don't deliberate, right? Now, as long as, so the way I'm thinking about it is we'll be say we have quorum at this meeting. We don't have to talk to each other about it. We're talking to Mark and Melanie, and it's an administrative type of learning and a project planning meeting. So I asked if they could get legal counsel's opinion on whether we need to call that a meeting or not, because this topic is going to come up a lot throughout this project, because I'm going to ask and invite all of us to attend planning meetings with DPW or DCR or MWA so that we have some redundancy. So if something were to happen to any one of us, that there's another Trails Committee member at least knowledgeable and aware of how the project's working, so that we're not going to lose momentum. And it's not really tragic thinking, it's more just, it's best practice to have multiple people involved and aware of how the project is going to run. So, any kind of piece, there'll be other opportunities if you can't make Friday, and we can try to be as flexible as possible with work schedules, but obviously DCR and MWA aren't going to work outside of their hours, including DPW. So some of this will be in work hours. So if you can take an hour here or there, that'd be great. And we can try to do some of it virtually as well, so that it makes it easier to attend. But for the one on Friday, I asked for an in-person meeting so that we could see each other's face and understand what's going on.
What time it is? 9:30.
9.
9. Okay, 9.
Yeah.
So it is in the town office.
Yep. So yeah, we would just meet at the town hall, and no particular office, just go in and say, hey, I'm here to meet with Mark and Melanie, and they're going to direct us wherever they're going to be.
So do you have any idea how long this can drag
You
on?
can come for any amount of time that you're available, because
Okay.
I think you'll learn something no matter how long you're there. So
Okay.
if you only have 30 minutes, that's fine, right?
Okay.
Having been through a similar discussion with the Public Accessibility Committee and Mark Purple,
Okay.
when we were talking about getting bids on
Yeah.
on doing the ADA study, it'd probably be pretty quick, actually.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
You haven't been in a meeting with me, Will.
No. I will. I'll get my armor on or whatever.
I don't expect to take an extraordinary amount of time, but I have burning questions that I've been wanting to ask for years about this process. And it's somewhat complicated because we have multiple components of the project that can't be bid on at the same time. So I just want to understand how we process that. And we have multiple buckets of money, and I need to understand. So we won't necessarily talk all about the money, because we in the future have to have a meeting with Brian Valentine, the treasurer or the finance director, and maybe Carla, the accountant, and talk about how because this grant is a reimbursable grant and it requires a 20% match. So we need to figure out what that looks like in our reporting and stuff and how we spend that money. Because we have to spend ARPA money and then get reimbursed, and then it has to be in different buckets, but we have to take from one bucket to pay the other bucket back. Or, take from ARPA money to pay for what's going to be reimbursed by the grant. So there's going to be some awkward flows back and forth, and I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So that's a future meeting.
Well, I have to think that DPW is putting stuff out to bid all the time, and they also are paying for grants, and they're paying with grants and things like that.
Someone's got it figured out. We just don't know what that is yet. And we have to know. So we don't want to, we want to make sure we're following the protocols and not getting in trouble and not making a mess of the money. So.
I guess the one, well, let me ask you this. Do we actually, is the money burning a hole in our pocket? In other words,
that's not necessarily true. No.
Okay. Well, what I mean is the money readily at hand?
The ARPA money is, yes.
And the permissions are at hand as well?
No, we can't do anything until we get it. Go ahead with the grant contracting, which we're still waiting on.
Well, I guess I'd be concerned that Mark might be a bottleneck, right? Who's?
Well, Melanie is actually the procurement officer, but Mark is. So we'll be working with Melanie, and Mark will oversee the process. How about
okay?
That?
That's good. I think we want to make sure that we are getting a requisite degree of urgency here.
Yeah, and I think we can start to convey that, right? We can take a temperature on Friday about what this process is going to be like, because I want to be sensitive to the town's needs also. They're going to be running the process. We have town meeting in March. So, we have the warrant. That's priority, and the budget. That's a big deal in the next 2 months for the town. So they're going to be very busy doing lots of those things. And I want to make sure we can run our process in parallel, as independent as we need to, but with guidance as we need to as well. So
yeah, I just I guess the other question I'd have is, are they going to look to us to try and find bridge vendors? Well, maybe they have bridge vendors in their back pocket.
We have bridge vendors.
Okay, we do.
We've got it all.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 3 quotes or several quotes from different vendors. Actually, we didn't get 3 quotes for the bridge because we knew we'd have to go to bid anyway. So we have 3 quotes for signage. We have 3 quotes for fencing. We have 3 quotes for all the other stuff. But the bridge, we just did 1 quote because we knew we had to go to bid, and we just needed a kind of a benchmark to know what to put in for budget.
Mm-hmm.
So about Mass Trails contracting status. So I reached out to Amanda last week. It's a small team at DCR, 3 people that manage the grant process and paperwork. And one of the managers was out on honeymoon, and now there's a gap in his employment because he was a summertime employee. He was furloughed, and now he's being rehired. So this is a state issue and a state process, not related to us at all. But we're caught in this little middle of they're very busy. They were doing the conference, and now the paperwork's been delayed. So I reached out again this week and said, I asked about just an update. I know they're very busy, but I also just shared with them that we were hoping to, if the contracting could get into place, that we were hoping to put the fencing before the ground froze. And that's a TBD. We don't know when the ground is freezing. But the fence contractor also has like a 10 to 12 week lead time. I revisited that email. So we may be at a point now where we can't do the fencing until the spring. So I'm not sure how that will line up, but I did share our physical dilemma and what we were trying to accomplish. If it doesn't work out that we can do it this winter, it's not the end of the world. I just was hoping that we could get something started so that everything wasn't happening at the same time. like we do the bridge vendor at the same time as the fencing, because that's a lot of project management. So I was hoping to stagger it. But there'll still be some activity we can do, like signage, and get all of that taken care of this winter. So it won't be the end of the work.
Now, this is the fencing that goes around the access point to the aqueduct or whatever.
Yeah, the Hosmer,
Okay.
the riser shaft. Yeah.
This is not the, this does
Oh.
not affect the fence at the entrance.
No, it actually is both. It's the fence and the riser shaft, right?
Oh,
Yeah. And so, but the fence is a little complicated because the fence at the gate is a little complicated because we were going to reach out to DCR and say, hey, if you were going to do that anyway, do you want to do that? Just move it up. But I was trying to stage those conversations because we're still in the middle of negotiating the agreement. So you can kind of see how things are piling up. So I'm trying to gauge when to ask what. And I've also reached out to DPW to ask for a meeting so that we could talk to Karen about the in-kind support for the parking and the crosswalk, and to make sure that that transition from her leadership to the new superintendent happens, and that the new superintendent has this as a priority and is aware of the project, and it doesn't get, lost in the shuffle of changing guard. So I've not yet heard back. So I will continue to reach out to Karen and then ask her, because I think we need to understand their timeline so that when we talk to DCR, we can say, okay, DPW is lined up for this time frame. So because I want DPW and DCR and the fencing company to all meet at the site, look at it, and make sure that where we're planning to move the fence makes sense for the parking. And then once we have that information, then we need to talk to our homeowners and our abutters and let them know what's going on in a more complete way, so they're on board and feel comfortable with everything. So there's a lot of moving pieces that we're not quite ready to move on, but we're trying to, set things up. We don't want to spend too much time because none of the time we're spending organizing this now counts towards the in-kind support. Because remember, our labor, our time will be tracked and calculated towards the in-kind support for the grant. So I think it's okay that we start these preliminary steps, because now that we're so late in the year, any little bit we can kind of organize and get ready when we have our final agreement, we can just start and we'll have some smooth sailing, I hope.
are we held up if they don't fill the DPW role?
That's a good question that I don't want to talk about or think about, but I would think that yes, if there's no one in the role to execute projects, that would be a delay. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a good question, because maybe not, because they have leadership there at DPW. It's not all handled by one person, and they're going to have to continue regardless. DPW doesn't stop.
Yeah,
So
business continuity has to be there. I mean,
yeah, there's going to be an interim superintendent if there's not a full superintendent, and something's going to continue on. So they're probably not going to do projects like ours when they're busy and not fully staffed. I could see that being a delay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for bringing that up, Will.
Yeah, always want to give you something else to worry about.
I appreciate that. So any questions? I think I've covered most of the new connection. So I think I talked to you guys about the builder at the Peninsula Trail who he's building his own house, and he's building a couple of other houses. It's right in that field as you come into the trail off of Route 30 in Central, past the space that has no buffer between the trail and the yard, and it starts to be a little field. They're going to put a little housing development there, and the builder has proposed putting in an easement, and there's some paved option at one end that would potentially be some parking. So I'm going to follow up on that and kind of understand. He's going before the planning board in the upcoming months and open space. So I'm going to reach out to him and see if that's still an option and where he is with that. And because that's going to be, it might be very helpful to some of the abutters to know that there's 3 parking options and that it will make them feel more comfortable that people aren't going to go to Meadow Lane and try to walk across, which that topic did come up with a neighbor. So any questions on the grant contracting? process?
One question. So this Amanda, what department she is?
Amanda Lewis?
Yeah, Louis.
She is Lewis. She is the DCR program, Mass Trails Grant Program Administrator.
Okay.
And they did a wonderful job on the conference. Yeah, which we have as number 9. I guess we could kind of skip around. So Will and Sati, you attended the conference with me. What did you guys think?
I mean, I was mostly in the later part. It was pretty good. I mean, two sessions. They are very good. I mean, in the opening session, the
Keynote speaker?
keynote address was very good. I mean,
Yeah, I liked it too. What do you think, Will?
No, I thought it was just a wonderful conference.
Yeah.
You know, they certainly had a lot of good speakers.
Mhm.
And I guess the other thing that was particularly good was just being able to talk to other people.
Yeah.
And find out what their experiences were.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that I'm glad that they had time in the conference for, you know, the chats
Mhm.
or talking about trails, because that enabled people to share,
Mhm.
you know, their problems, but also things that they had found that worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Trails Conference is an amazing resource we should take advantage of. It's only every 2 years. There's really nothing else like that. And we should keep our eyes open for various workshops and things that do happen around the state. They're very worthwhile. There was a big focus on accessible trails, shared use paths, which we don't really have a shared use path, but the accessibility and creating a sensory oriented trail. We picked up some really good information on that and a couple of key contacts, one from Mass Audubon that we might be able to work with to focus on how we can improve not just the mobility piece, like the having physical access, but when what we were learning is the sensory piece is like those who have vision issues or those who have hearing issues, or how do you accommodate a wider group of people on the path. So that was really, really interesting. And I think Mass Audubon, I would say, is a leader in that they've created 14 different accessible trails throughout the state, and they're looking to do up to 20. And what I also learned, which I was pleased to hear, is that a lot of the accessible trails are not very long. So I've always kind of felt like, oh, it's only a half a mile. What a shame. But a lot of them are only a loop or they're short trails. And so that was just just encouraging to know that it is worthwhile to do it. And also how important it is to have accessible trails that continue on. So they're not just a loop and they end, but if those who have varying levels want to try to continue on, that they can. And so this is a perfect example of that, where they can, it stops where it does and there's a slope, but if those who can get over the slope, and one of the resources from Mass Trails, from Mass Audubon that I connected with, specifically, I want to talk about that second slope that gets to right in front of the pumping station, because if we can, there are some regulations that allow you to exceed the slope if you have the right rest area at the side of the trail. We are a bit limited with what creativity we can do, but I think given the how do I describe it? Given how popular and important accessible trails have become, it's at the top of a lot of agency's mind that this might be the right time to get creative and see if DCR is willing to, and MWRA is willing to work with us. Just so we don't want to get in the way of the primary objective of this access road is to take care of the dam and the infrastructure. But can we add some enhancements that would also benefit a population that needs access to trails?
Yeah, about the accessibility, there was also this BCT folks, they gave a very good
Oh,
presentation.
BCT.
Will was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kristen Sykes, I think.
Yeah,
Bay Circuit Trail.
Besa, yeah.
And no, they were had done a lot of work. You know, they had what they'd done is I thought was great is that they had reached out to the 84 businesses or something that are along the Bay Circuit Trail and talked to them about, you know, what kind of programs or what kind of, you know, things that they would like to offer cyclists and that they would like cyclists to know about.
Huh.
You know, that actually that kind of triggers another thing, which is that remember at the Trails Conference around that was held at Hopkinton Park there.
Yeah, the summit.
Yeah, there was there was some thought about trying to organize cultural events sort of around the trails, right?
Yeah.
So that might be something to keep in touch with. I mean, if we're thinking about types of trails or types of hiking activities that we could offer, you know, maybe that would be something that we could coordinate with another town on, you know, in terms of if there's a cultural event or something that, you know, could sort of be incorporated into a hike or as part of a destination for a hike, that kind of thing.
I like it. So yeah, definitely worthwhile. And so for both of you, we talked about expenses. When you get your credit card statement, I'll need that and your receipt, and redact your credit card statement so it doesn't show anything miscellaneous, but keep the date, your name, your address, and the charge. You can black out everything else, and then the receipt, and then send it to me, and I'll send that to Tim Davis, and we'll get you reimbursed for that cost. So okay, so next up, shed delivery and next steps. So we met on the 26th and the shed was delivered on the 27th, and it went really well. It looks great. You guys saw pictures. And so we also executed with the building department, as we didn't need a building permit because of the size of the shed. Within the town, if it's under 120 square feet, you don't need a building permit. We did need a zoning permit. So that permit has been processed and we're good. They've gone out, they've inspected it. So we'll put a copy of the permit in the shed and we'll keep a copy in our files. And so now it's time to populate the shed. So I think, go ahead.
And remember to populate the lights in the shed too.
Yes, so I was about to say, Will made the first purchase of a couple of 5 lights. Was it 5 LED stick-up lights or 3? I forget.
5.
5. So he has, so we have the lights. So even though we have windows, you know, when you get in there, you still need some interior lights. So we'll figure out how to install those.
You are shedding some light on the thing.
Well, you know, I like light, and these little things, stick-up things, you know, are very handy. And you know, since they'll just be a good way that if somebody's going into the shed during the winter here, it can get kind of dark.
Yes,
so these are shed a lot of light on the interior of the shed.
Just can't help yourself.
Maybe we can put a Christmas tree inside.
Yeah, so it's I love those little stick-up lights. We use them here in dark closets and stuff where we don't really have a place to put a light. Okay, so are you seeing my screen right now? You're seeing
Yes.
an Excel spreadsheet with tools and stuff. Okay, so what should be happening tonight at the select board is they should be approving a tool donation letter. Oops, you're looking at my stuff. That's okay. I think it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Do you see this letter? Am I sharing the screen? Do you see a letterhead?
Yep, yep.
Okay, great. So we sent this letter. These are the tools that have been collected from the recycle page or purchased, and they are being donated to purchased by outside non-trails person, you know, not committee related in this way. So it's being donated to the committee. So this is just the list. So we already have, you know, a postal digger, a hoe, a pickaxe, and some rakes and trash grabbers and safety cones and things like that, and tree marking paint and some wood scrapers that is required for tree marking stuff. So that's stuff we already have. Okay. And then we had an opportunity, you may recall, back in June, where we could purchase some used tools. So we also have this here, what I've highlighted in blue, this stuff. We paid $45 for this Maddox, a pickaxe, the shade, a spade shovel, another shovel, some bow rakes, tree pruner, and another hole digger, and a bow saw. And then we purchased a weed whip separately. So we already have this list of tools that we'll put in the shed. So that's great. We start out with some stuff, and we got a really good deal because we're reusing some other people's tools that they no longer need, and we purchased used tools. So I hope that that demonstrates that we're trying to use taxpayer dollars in a good way, and then we're reducing and reusing other people's tools. So there will be tools that we have to purchase, and what I'd like to do is show a preliminary list here, have a preliminary budget, and take advantage of Black Friday deals. Right? Yeah. And so we'll save more money by doing that as well. So
Just a stupid question here. When is Black Friday deals? They seem to be moving all over the place. Is it
I
just
think, yeah, they're like forever from now until Christmas. You know,
No, you know, one of the good places would be the Harbor Freight.
I love Harbor Freight. So does my
Yeah.
husband. And they always have a 20% off coupon.
Yeah.
Right.
where is Harbor Freight located?
That's in
nearby?
Natick.
Natick.
There's
Okay.
one, what is it next to? It's next to the Total Wine
Yeah,
and
totally.
Burlington Coat Factory. Is that still there?
I think so.
Yeah. And
You mean the old Burlington Coat Factory? The one that moved out into Westboro or whatever? Or
No,
or
that's
I'm sorry.
that's different.
That's
yeah, that is
different.
different. So this is in Framingham. It's not far from, it's on the same Bean Street as Home Depot.
Bean Street, yeah.
Yeah, it's just down the road from Home Depot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Hampton Inn's building
Yes,
is there.
it's right there with Skybox, the bar.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I've done is I looked at the forests, US Forest Trail Building Guide. They have a list of tools. So I looked at that list. And then our friend Dick O'Brien, remember Will, he got the Mass Trails 2022 award, which is great. Dick O'Brien is the project manager that had agreed to work with us on this project. So he won the Mass Trails award. He also, the Leominster Stewards have a handbook for their volunteers and has a list of tools. So I kind of took both of those sources and pulled together a possible list for us to look at. So I'm going to go through these, I'll read them, and then ask me questions about what they are. I've got some tentative costs and quantity, and we can talk about all of that quickly, or as in much depth as you would like. So basically, some of these, like the ProHo, the McLeod, and this other ProHo with the McLeod, these are specialty tools. We really only need one of them, and we won't be building a ton of tools in our lifetime, but there are going to be some of our existing trails will need some specialty tools to, if a trail needs to be, the tread of the trail needs to be reshaped. based on erosion or any number of things, or we're building a new part of the Peninsula Trail has an earth trail, a natural surface that will require some digging. So these tools won't be used perhaps every year, but they will be in our near future. So they are handy to have. So that's what these are. The big boy saw, I think Sati, you know what the big boy saw is, that folding saw I have. And I
Yep,
don't know if you've seen it, Will or Isabella.
very effective.
It's a beautiful tool. It's 14-inch blade. It's very sharp. It folds in. And because, oh, I didn't have a, I don't think we should buy a chainsaw, but we'll talk about that. But if you don't have a chainsaw, and I don't like using chainsaws myself, I'm not trained, these will cut, fairly large branches if you're in a pinch and you don't have someone who's trained with a chainsaw. Now, you might be sitting there cutting for a while, but if you need to cut and you have nothing else, those things work really effectively. These batteries, so this is, we had donated, a neighbor donated to Tim Recreation 4 trails. It was a Works is a brand, WORX,
Yeah.
batteries, chargers, a charger, and a string trimmer and a leaf blower that are all Works. And so Tim's been holding that for us for a few years now. And I personally have purchased Works stuff. This is outside of that. And so I have a string trimmer, a hedge trimmer, and it uses Works batteries, and they work really well. So what I'm saying is, because we have had someone donate Works batteries, a charger, and a trimmer that we could use, a string trimmer, I recommend we continue to use Works products so that they all work together. No pun intended.
Sounds good.
So the Works batteries, I put this in red because I'm not sure we need 4, because I have to do an inventory of what we were donated, and I have some. So I want to make sure the committee tools stand alone without me, so it's not dependent on my tools. And because if I ever go away, we want the committee to be stocked with what they need, right? So, so I want to do a quick check on. I'm not sure how much we need for those. The hedge trimmer is going to be Works as well. That's battery operated. Loppers, a couple of loppers. There's one here, and a leaf rake. That's one of those bendy ones, not the bow rake, is a hard rake. So I think you know what I mean when I say a leaf rake, soft, like the soft ones versus the hard ones. We could use a couple of trash picker uppers because of our Earth Day work. We had, how many donated? 5 were donated to the committee. So having just a couple more will be useful. They're not that expensive. A hoe. I put this in red because I'm not sure we need this type of hoe, because we had some hoes in our inventory already. A weed whip. So we have one weed whip, and Will, this is your favorite tool. Remember a weed whip? We used it. Yep. And now Tom loves it too. So we need at least a couple weed whips. They're very helpful. And then this string trimmer, I want to stop for a minute and talk about it, because this is a special string trimmer. It's $350. And we've talked about doing a brush cutter. We need a brush cutter. And Will and Sati, I think you may remember, like, there's some parts of the trail that have woody stems. It's hard to cut with a string trimmer, or it will get all cut up. A brush cutter is basically a beefed up string trimmer, and it has blades, right? And so it's handheld, and it looks like a string trimmer. This string trimmer has detachable heads, right? So for example, it will serve as a string trimmer in one instance, or you can get a brush cutter Works attachment for another $80, the blades, and you can make it a tool that would be used for both purposes. So and the reason I'm thinking we do battery powered is the maintenance of it, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering because if we get into buying a brush cutter that needs gas and oil, and it needs to be annual maintenance, and we're not the people really skilled to do that necessarily. Is it going to cost us more in annual maintenance and such to keep the tools in good condition rather than, buying a battery powered one? There's going to be less maintenance. So
Is there,
open that up.
is there no opportunity for rentals?
Yeah, so if we did rentals, I just looked at Home Depot's page. 4 hours is $36, or you do it for $52 for a day. So those are not brush cutter. I mean, those are not battery powered, of course. So that is an option if we wanted to rent versus purchase. And
I mean, the brush cutter is really, it's for very, very heavy
Yeah.
thing. It's not a usual, not something that you'd usually do on a trail. It's more for like
Oh,
once a
yes.
year, or or I don't know. I mean, how many days would we rent? It would be the question.
We
And
would
what
need
is
to
it?
do it. So if I'll put it like this, if we had this tool, our trails, especially the one, the Bay Circuit Trail connector that's next to the gatehouse, we would be able to do that multiple times in a year, right? And it needs it multiple times in a year, because most of the time that trail, because you have to walk up and over around a fence, most of the time you can't do that, and that it's all poison ivy, so nobody
Yeah.
wants to do it, right? And so that's the thing about renting, is like you have to, it's after a few years, then you've basically paid for the cost of the purchase of the tool.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
well,
So
I guess the other thing I would just say is I have to believe that DPW's got this problem. They've got a lot of power or gasoline powered kind of stuff. Maybe we could somehow work a deal with them.
well, so this is the thing. Okay, so here's like a gas powered one, what it looks like, just so we have a visual. Here's a brush cutter. So it kind of looks like a weed trimmer, a string trimmer, but it has blades, right? Here's one,
Mhm.
right? They're
I
kind
think-
of big, so we have to be careful.
I think the battery powered is environmentally friendly also, and no noise.
Yeah,
Less
it's
noise.
better for the environment, better for any of us who are smelling the fumes. I really don't like, my personal preference is not to use fumey. Our mowers are fume based, but not our string trimmer, and I've really enjoyed it because you come out after using that tool smelling like it, and it sucks. So back to DPW. So the thing about DPW is, I think they can help us on occasion. But honestly, it goes like this. I'd like us to be as independent as possible, because if DPW is busy, they have things to do, and they did brush cut part of that trail for us once as a favor. And I just don't know if having them do regular trail maintenance is the right thing, because basically, they mow Stewardship, they mow Breakneck Hill, and they're paid for those services, right? So, if we wanted to look at our budget and say, hey, we need you to brush cut, how much are you going to charge us? That might be something that we think about doing. But personally, I find it difficult, and I'm open to hearing from you. I find it difficult to say, hey, can you brush cut? And anytime in the next month will work, when we need it done this week, or we need it done next week. And this is such a simple thing that I feel like we could do this, right? We can't mow open channel. We have to pay for that, but we could brush cut. It
Right.
would be reasonable. So what do you guys think?
No,
I
that's
think-
fine.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, I think it's hard to, if everything we do is dependent upon someone else's schedule, you just put a bottleneck. And
Exactly.
we're already experiencing it with the MWA's mowing because they can only do twice a year, and we can't control it. And then, 2 miles of trail isn't workable a couple times a year or most of the year, because it's all grown up and people don't want to walk on it. So that's what I'm thinking. So open to what you guys think, and we can hold off on this. I mean, if there's a good deal, maybe we look at it, but
Well, brush cutting is sort of a spring thing, right?
it would be, yep, it would be. And it would also help us, in different areas like the new Pine Hill Trail, there may be some areas that we have to brush cut because they originally brush cut that. And the more it grows up, we have some shrubby things to contend with, so it's tricky. A 300-foot tape measure. This is iffy. Now, I don't know if we will need this, but it has come up where we've need to measure like for the footbridge and things like that. It's a $30 tool. Having a tape measure might be handy. Like we're going to be putting in some town forest bridges, having a measure, being able to measure that type of stuff. What do you guys think? Worthwhile?
Yeah,
Could we
it's-
get like a walking tape measure?
that one, yeah.
We could. So that is actually, now let me ask you about that, because we could do the walking tape measure, right? But you kind of, you need some flat trails for that. It can get kind of tricky. So
Mhm.
here's some average price. Oh, look, Harbor Freight. I don't know how good that is. Yeah, so it looks like it's a variety of prices, right, that we can look at. So, but I wouldn't be able to use this to measure if I were putting in a small footbridge like we're doing on Stony Brook. I wouldn't be able to go through the water, or, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have that option, where before we actually stretched out the tape. So let's put the walking wheel as an option.
Okay, I just feel like 300 feet for a tape measure is like a little unrealistic.
They're fun. Who had one? I think Tom has one. He's like 100-foot one. I've never seen one, but yeah. So I think what you're saying is like, are you saying that we would never really need it, or it's just long?
It's just like really long and it seems kind of cumbersome.
Unwieldy.
I have to agree. I think that would be kind of a nightmare. It'd be really big and heavy, I would think.
I'm just trying to picture like extending it all the way. Oh, okay, this kind. I don't know why, but in my head I had like the mechanical, like the metal ones.
I did
This
too, but
this
is there
better.
is it like a cloth thing or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. They're kind of lightweight and they're manageable. So
Oh, okay.
someone's figured out how
And
to
then
make
that's much better.
Okay, yeah, I like that a lot better. That's a lot better.
That's funny. And
I
then
have a
this,
suggestion
yes,
for
please.
the tool. Maybe like brute trash cans, just in case we get like trash or like picking up cuttings from
Good
sticks.
point.
What
Yeah,
are you calling them? What kind of trash cans?
The brute trash cans. BRE.
That's a brand. That's a brand, Brute.
Yeah, they make like the big industrial gray trash cans.
Yeah, Brute. Just yeah.
Wonderful idea.
But just like a few of those to have on hand, like if we're raking or picking up weeds or something like that.
Yep. Let's do that.
DPW can give us. They have a lot of them in the transfer station.
Maybe I'll put it at 50.
You can get those with and without wheels, or you can get wheels for those, I think.
Yeah, wheels are convenient that way,
We should put along those lines contractor bags, because
Yep.
the contractor trash bags, because when we do trash pack pickup, to your same point, Bella, we at least need a big box of those. I don't know how much they are, so I'll put that.
Roll
Yeah.
maybe at 1 or 2 rolls.
I'm looking at a brute here that's got wheels, and it's like $188.
But you
Yeah,
don't
if
have
we're
to
on the
necessarily
trail,
buy
I mean, where
that.
we
Buy
need
the
something.
Brute brand. You can buy any. brand.
Yeah, it's true. But even like Rubbermaid, their trash can with wheels is around in the same price range as well.
I mean,
So-
how big we are thinking? 40
Well, this
gallons
is-
is sufficient.
This is basically, it's sort of like a normal trash can size, except it's made out of plastic. It's got a lid and it's got wheels. And
What about a tarp?
pardon?
Tarp. Tarp
You
is
know how we use tarps for, like, even
Yeah.
in the same instance, like instead of using trash cans, sometimes you can use a tarp.
Well, yeah, you can also use like a my father always used a burlap kind of tarp thing, which he would put grass clippings and leaves and stuff in.
Yeah, we use,
I think that's a southern thing.
But what's the exact purpose of the trash can or tarp, and what are we doing?
It would just be for like trash cleanup or trimming sticks and such, or if there's like big branches out of the way.
yeah, if we're doing trail cleanup, I can, and we're clearing brush and stuff, and we don't just want to dump it here, but we want to relocate it there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something like that. And maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe we start out with one and see if we need more, if we don't use it. Something like that.
I mean, I have seen in Walmart they're like $10-12
Okay.
with
Mm,
a
Yeah, this is just a
pan.
suggestion, and it could also like carry some tools in it too if we
Yeah,
don't.
that's a good point actually.
It
yeah.
is. It is a good point.
And it doesn't have to
Um,
be a huge one too. They make like
Yeah.
20-gallon ones, so
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like a really big one.
Okay, good. And so, tarp, and then, so this is it measures slope. And so I'm just curious if this might be a wish tool, but because we are designing a accessible trail, it can be helpful to measure slope, cross slope, and then the other slope. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's a good thing to have. I think there's there's actually, you can do it with just a ruler or something, depending on how long the thing is, right? You can do it with a
Yeah, they
yardstick.
also have that's a good point. They also have an app. I used an
Yeah.
app on my phone to measure slope on the Peninsula Trail, and I got pretty close compared to the ADA consultant that came out and did work.
Right.
His tool was obviously better.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like a yardstick and a level and a ruler, you can do it, because what you're doing is you're
That's 3 tools I don't want to bring out.
a level's isn't that big. It fits in your pocket. You need to have a pocket, but the yardstick and a ruler, you can figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, so then digging bar. So this is like one of those really long bars, and it helps you move rocks. And where I'm thinking about using this, because it's come up multiple times, is in the town forest. And I know the stewardship oversees the town forest, but we do some work in there sometimes with their permission. And so there's some water crossings and things like that. And so the rock bar would help us relocate some rocks that need to kind of be moved for stepping stones. And it also goes with the rock hammock, which, I was with the group of students that volunteered earlier this year, and we were trying to put some stones down, and rocks are really awkward to carry. They hurt your back. So it's really kind of difficult to do. So the rock hammock and the digging bar would help us appropriately relocate rocks on that way. So it wouldn't be something we use all the time, but.
That's fine. Yeah.
The other thing, and to your point, Bella, is regarding the trash can with wheels, is that a gorilla cart or a wheelbarrow, and this is maybe a nice to have, maybe not a necessity, but I'll be honest with you, you guys have seen me out there with my little cart, which I super love. It's really handy when you're going out on trails that at least that you can, are somewhat flat, and a lot of ours aren't that hilly. So, and this cart that I found actually dumps like a wheelbarrow. I started on the path of the wheelbarrow and then got on this one that dumps. So it's kind of a rugged terrain type thing, and you can't see it here, but the one I was looking at, I think this might do it. It dumps out your contents. So where that would come in handy is we're going to have to really consider trail surface on some of our trails where we have a lot of weeds coming up, like the Pine Hill Road one. And it had recommended to us to put something down to help control the weeds. So something like this, we would be able to fill it up, dump, that kind of thing. Also with our tarp, we could drag out our stuff, or with our trash can. So what do you guys think?
Looks solid and useful, right? Yeah.
Oh, here, this thing, see how it dumps?
Yeah.
I feel like it might be more useful than a trash can too in some instances.
Yeah, that
Because you don't really want to like lug a trash can.
Oh, that's a really interesting idea. So maybe we get, okay, and then we could just put the money into that. Okay. Do you want to still get a trash can of any kind, like a smaller version in case we need it, or would you rather wait and see if we need it?
I mean, we could keep like a small one on the list just to have it, and then see how we feel later on with
And then
it.
if we need, yeah.
But I think the cart would be a lot more useful.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and then shelves and organizers, we need to lay out an idea for how we want the tools to be organized in the shed so it's reasonable, and that's going to require some of those clips and things like that. So I just put an estimate in here. I hope it's under 175, but
Would I guess it depends on a lot of these tools are going to have wooden handles.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, that means magnets don't work too well.
no.
We'll just
But
have
they
to.
have- yeah.
I wonder if Harbor Freight would be the place to look for something like that.
right.
Yeah, and they actually, I have spent probably too much time now looking at videos on how to organize your garden shed because I find it fascinating. So there's lots of ideas, and the way that the inside of the shed is, it has the 2x4s every whatever the code is, so you can kind of build things and hang things and do sorts, things that it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be very inexpensive if you can get creative. So there's lots of different, and I suggest before we just stuff it, that we come up with a sketch of an idea of, and have that circulated among the committee, and then decide on how to kind of work that out, if you guys think that will work.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're close to finishing. I just wanted to show you, okay, our ARPA budget. So what did we just say? Now it's up at 2,600. So this is our current ARPA budget for this. We're calling it project number 2, which was trail enhancements. We started with 12,500. What we have spent to date is this $45 was the tools, the pre-owned tools. We spent $33 on the weed cutter, one of them, and then we purchased a shed. So far we've spent $4,700 of the 12,500. Okay, and that leaves a remaining number of $7,797. Okay, our estimated tool purchase is $2,600, so that would leave 51, or basically 5,200. So I wanted to check in to see, and what we had said we would buy with this money is this project descriptions right over here. We said we would do an interpretive sign, boardwalks and small bridges in partnership with Stewardship Committee and Town Forest. We would do a guided hike for, we could spend money on a professional to do a guided hike, trail enhancements, tools to help maintain, and a shed. So I think 5,200 left to do some signage, boardwalks and bridges, a guided hike, and any other trail enhancements. Seems reasonable. What do you guys think?
Yep.
Seem good. Okay, good. So what I'll start doing is I'd like to talk to Tim, Recreation Director, to find out, because taxes are not covered, and I don't want to purchase $2,600 worth of tools out of, my money and then not get reimbursed for taxes, because that can add up to a lot of money. So
how does the town pay for things? Do they, because it's the town issuing a PO, they don't have to pay taxes?
Yes, so with the shed, that's how that worked. A PO is issued, they're not taxed on the shed. They had to provide their tax exemption certificate. And I think if you buy from Home Depot or Lowe's or these different places that you can set up a business account but you have to go through the process of setting up the account. So I'm going to talk to him about what that means. It may limit us with where we can buy what and stuff. So I'll just need to figure that out. But it's a process, it's paperwork, but I think it's worthwhile to go ahead and set up some accounts so that as we need things, we can just start getting reimbursed, not having to suck up the tax piece, which would be kind of nice. But yeah, so that's the thing about tools, and then taking advantage of all the deals that will be coming up will be a nice way of saving some money too. Okay, any questions or thoughts? Okay, so for our next meeting, I can, circulate some ideas about trail organization, the shed organization. If you guys have any ideas, circulate them. It'd be administrative, so it just send out, but don't write back, and we'll talk about it at our next meeting. Okay, so I think now do number 10, connecting Park Central to existing trails. Is that a little preliminary now, Will, to talk about as a committee?
I'm sorry to,
You had brought up connecting Park Central to existing trails topic.
yeah, that's preliminary. The Park Central, it's a project that they've been trying to get going for years. Sort of north of the Red Roof Inn there,
Yep.
Next to 495, and the current smart money says that it's never going to take place because the roads into that site are so awkward that it would be very, very difficult to actually provide access to it for a large number of people. And I'm talking 400 units and, like 1,500 people, new people in Southborough.
Okay. So we'll skip that. Keep it on the list as things happen or don't happen, and we'll revisit it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't think we're ready to talk about that, are we tonight, Will? The statement, the diversity, equity statement.
No, still working on that. I guess, let me, just give me a little bit of guidance on that. Let's just say a few words about it. I mean, I think, I guess, it probably is just something pretty short that says that we're looking wherever possible to build accessible trails that can be used by people of all abilities.
Yes, and you might, since we know Mass Audubon is so good at it, look at their guide. They may have some information there about it. Yeah, and just a paragraph, a couple sentences, because what we're trying to demonstrate, and when this came up, if you remember, Will, is we talked about you'd wanted to add something in our bylaw about making us focus on accessibility. And then we as a committee thought, well, that's a great idea, but maybe it doesn't belong in the bylaw. But we as a committee should put out a statement based on, so that we're demonstrating and sharing our commitment to making trails accessible. And that was, I think, partially SPAC wanted us to do that, or you as a representative of SPAC wanted to make sure that didn't get lost in the shuffle of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Right. I mean, I think that I told this to SPAC. I mean, after we had the Trail Summit, for the trails around Framingham, that there just seems to be a lot of interest in accessible trails, and there was also obviously a lot of content and people talking about trail accessibility at this most recent conference. So, this is something that's very much top of mind.
It is, and that's what I meant when maybe because it's on top of mind, DCR might be a little more open, or MWA might be a little more open to consider some creative solutions for some of our slope issues to make that trail a little bit more accessible. So yeah, so maybe we take a look at some of those resources. I think there'll be plenty out there that we can take from, and we were not going to plagiarize, but we'll, we don't have to recreate the wheel. we just kind of, we want to make sure that the commitment is out there, and we'll put it on our website under the policies and resources page. I think
Right.
we have our policy there, so we have time to figure that out. Trail maintenance, I'm happy to report we don't have any trail maintenance right now. I don't think. And website updates, that's always coming along. I did talk to Jim Haggerty, and he was so kind to update the website, the home page, which we don't have access to. It now reflects our bylaw language, right? We're no longer an ad hoc committee, we're what it was saying before. So we took some language from the bylaw that just states our mission and purpose, and we put that on the website, and it links to our bylaw. And the officers are now listed: chair, vice chair, and clerk. So that's been updated. So thank you, Mr. Haggerty, for that. And next up, anything else that we need to talk about other than our next meeting? Okay. Next meeting. So we're going to be in the holiday season. Oh, I know what, related to trail maintenance, this is really important and very quick. So remember we talked about, so our annual budget is $1,750, and the town is going through their budget process. And so we wanted to explore the option of another mow or two for the open channel off of Ward Road, so that we can make, it's actually from Deerfoot all the way to the Marlboro line. We wanted to make that have more mows than just two, because most of the year during the growing season, it's unusable when it's too high. People aren't using that trail. So I reached out to DPW to see if they could expand the J&J contract. They are currently in a 3-year contract, and it's not easy to amend. So I reached out, so they gave us the contact. I reached out to J&J and asked him to provide a quote for that section of trail, and it's roughly 2.3 miles. And I did ask MWA if we could get permission to do so under our permit, which we do have permission to do so. So now we're good. And J&J came back and said he didn't have time to walk the trail, but based on the map I sent him and an estimate, the high end would be $2,200 for one mow. And the lower end would be maybe $1,000, right? So that's based on $100 an hour, 10 to 12 hours to mow that section. And some of that has to do with he can't cross Route 30, so there's transportation back and forth and to and fro, and loading the mower and unloading the mower. And
How far off the trail are they mowing?
no, it would be a 5-foot swath of the trail. On the
So
trail, like they are mowing the trail.
they're just mowing the trail for $2,000. How long is the trail?
It's 2.3 miles.
Hmm.
So he
And
he
he's
said
not he's not taking the grass clippings away, is he?
no.
Okay.
He said, and he gives the town, he works with the town often, and the $100 an hour is a break from their regular, I think it's 140, 150 an hour that they normally charge, but they're giving the town a break. He said realistically, it would come out at $1,200, maybe 10 to 12 hours, but he's not quite sure until he does it. So this is the question for the committee. We can't do 2 mows. We can't afford that. That's not going to work, right? Our budget will be blown with 1 mow.
Are we
if we-
constrained on just having the town do it?
That's an outside contractor, right? So
Oh.
what do you mean having the town do it, DPW?
So an
So they-
outside contractor
need-
would cost that much? Wow.
Yeah, so, and DPW would still need to be paid if they did it, right? So I talked to Recreation because we didn't want to increase our budget beyond 1,750. So I asked him if if Rec would be able to help us, and he said, or do we need to talk to DPW about, is there another line item that they could absorb, a couple $1,000s for trail mowing if we did one and they did one. So he said, talk to DPW and see if they will. So I did ask him, I said, if we absorb 1 mow, because this isn't a forever thing, we can't because that would take our budget down to like, 1750 to, if we spent 1200 on a mow, we'd only have, and if it's higher than that, if it's 1600, we'd only have $150 for a year for our budget left, right? That doesn't really work very well. So I asked if we could increase our annual budget to 1850, right? And put that line item in the budget for voting. I didn't want to have to increase our budget, but if we're having to absorb this mow, increasing by $100 shouldn't be a deal breaker for people. And it's very explainable. Like you basically say, well, we think we need 100 more because we're absorbing this mowing cost. We might, if DPW says no, and Recreation said they might be able to split it with us, so then it wouldn't take our entire budget, which would be nice. So there's a couple of things we can work out, and if DPW can't help us mow, then we can only offer one mow additional in a year. So we'll
How
only-
do they mow around the fields? They mow those pretty often, especially in the
what fields? Which
soccer
ones?
fields and
Oh, I don't.
all the
yeah,
grass
I-
stuff.
That's like a completely different type of mowing though.
Yeah.
This is, you're mowing into like brush and stuff too, so
Yeah,
you need
it's-
a little bit heavy duty equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's turf grass is a lot easier to mow than on trails, especially if there's like rocks in the way. And I
Yeah.
know especially on Ward Road, it gets really wet too. So you get stuck in a lot of the muddy areas.
And we didn't really talk about that.
Isabella, I'm not surprised that you know about this. I mean, having met you, I can see that you're big, burly, mow aware person.
Well, no, she has a background in working in gardening, and
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
part of being in the
No, that's a
horticulture
good
field.
point. That's a very good point.
that is why she's a good consult for that. So thank you, Isabella. Yeah, and I didn't talk to him so much about how wet that area gets, so that price tag might be just right on. It's very expensive. It's not that realistic for us to do on an ongoing basis unless our budget increases. And one day, I don't know if it ever makes sense that we take the full budget on for mowing. Again, we've kind of been removed from that process, so maybe it makes sense for DPW to keep it. Maybe DPW doesn't want it, I don't know. We can talk about that in future years, but the goal is to get at least one additional mow. It'd be great if we could get two. I don't know if DPW will be able to add it to their budget, so we'll do the best we can. But
Wow.
any other approaches on that you guys want to shed any light on?
So are we at risk that DPW is going to say, hey, you guys take it, we're gonna drop it completely?
No, not in the next few years, no. And it
Okay.
might be something, so no, they have a contract for that. That's why it's a multi-year contract. It's in place, and that's why it's hard to amend. But if DPW would be open to finding another line item or some sort of, for another $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 of a mow, they might say no. And then we'll just say, okay. What I was referring to, Will, is in the future, like, do we ever foresee the committee being, taking that contract under our wings and under our budget and having our budget increase to include mowing, so that we manage that process? It seems reasonable that that's something the committee might want to do, but we need to think about what that means for future committee members who will be then responsible for that. Do they want to be, the future chairs, future people? So it's just something to think about. All right, so we'll go forward with that and see how far, what we end up with. And Tim said, okay, on the 1850, we can try. We might, the town might say, we're in a budget crunch, we can't afford an extra $100 for trails. Why, they might say no. And that's fine, it is what it is. Okay. And next meeting. So December, I'm going to put out there the week of December 12th. I know December is really hard because of the holiday, so I get that, but I think I'd reached out to Lisa Braccio to see when the master plan implementation committee is going to meet, because now that's early December. So I have not yet heard back, but I think they were looking at the week of the 5th. So I think if we just stay away from that week, we should be in the clear to not overbook that which we
Well,
don't know.
could I argue for a Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday meeting?
Yes, because,
Okay, because I've got Monday and Wednesday already booked up that week.
okay, sure. How about how is the 13th for everybody? The Tuesday, the 13th?
This good.
Yeah, that would be
Okay,
good for
Bella.
me. Yep.
That works too.
You said yes, Will,
Yes,
and Bella said yes. Great. All right, so
you gonna
Tuesday,
send out an invite on that?
I will.
Okay.
I can't believe it took me years to figure out doing that. Makes sense. I just thought people would put in, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so 7:30, 12:13. Thank you all on that. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Well, I can do
Oh,
that.
I move that we adjourn hard.
At 9:07 p.m. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks for hanging in there. It was a good meeting. We got a lot done and we'll keep at it. So thanks everyone and have a great and happy Thanksgiving.
What time it is? So like 9:00.
Do we need to vote on the motion to
Yeah,
adjourn the
we have to
meeting?
vote.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. Roll call. Will Warren,
Yeah, aye.
Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky,
Yes.
Kathy Key. Yes. Thank you for
And
keeping
9:07, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll just send you the.
minutes.
Okay.
All right, we'll get those out. Thank you all. Have a great night. Great
Okay,
weekend.
bye-bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Night.